Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ben here. I'm back again today doing another video. And today we're going to be continuing this updated ranking of all the NBA players at various positions. And right now we're going to be doing the small forward position. So honestly, without further ado, I think we're just going to get into it. And some clarifications off the bat. These are the categories that I made up: All NBA, All Star, Above Average Starter, Role Player. I'll kind of talk about each as I put players into the categories, but to get through just sort of some definitions, these are going to be like the 2 to 3 best players at the position. I think kind of like your superstar level guys. All Star are pretty explanatory guys. I think that could make an All Star team or have made All Star teams. Above Average Starter. These are your guys that are like very valuable pieces, and on a championship level team they're maybe like the third or fourth best player, but they're not quite like worthy of all-star recognition. Average starter is probably like your fifth or sixth best guy on like a really good contending team, and then role player is, well, a role player. So without further ado, I'd say let's get into it. I'm not going to go in any particular order with how I picked the guys out of here, just as a side note. So if you're like thinking I'm going to go in this particular order, that's not the case. So to start off, let's do Kyle Anderson. I'm going to say role player, tall, lanky, can give you like, I think his upside is like 12 points a night and on decent efficiency. And I think to me, he wouldn't start on many NBA teams. I think he's like a good bench defensive 3 and D, optimistically like a 3 and D kind of guy. So I have him as a role player. Um, Chris Middleton. He been to back-to-back All-Star teams. I'll say All-Star. He is very similar to Rip Hamilton for me, like a guy who will consistently make All-Star teams probably. Maybe because he's in the East, but he never will be beyond that. And I think like on a championship level team, he's probably like, maybe if the Bucks were to win it this year, he could say, well, he's the second best player on a championship level team. But I think on most title teams, he'd be like your third best player. Isaac Bonga, I didn't realize he was the starting small forward for the Wizards, but definitely a role player. He is like um, not good at all, and he should not be starting on any NBA team. And you know, honestly, if there was like a shouldn't be getting minutes category here, I would put him in there if that was a tier, but it's not. So I'll just by default say role player. I don't have anything against him. He's just not really a talented NBA player. Uh, Eric Gordon. I'm gonna say above average starter. I didn't realize. I thought he was still coming off the bench for the Rockets, but I guess he's starting lately. He's like a good 16 points a night on decent shooting percentages. Um, he is like the definition of this above average starter. Like he is never going to be good enough to make an all star team, but he is not just average. He's definitely above average, and like he's won six man of the year before. Um, and yeah, he is very talented for what he's being asked to give his team. Mo Harkless, role player, gives you some good defense, gives you very little offense. He's like 3 and D, but the three part is kind of light because he is a decent shooter, but just inconsistent on offense. And really, if he gets minutes anywhere, particularly right now the Knicks, it's because they're either really bad or they really need some wing defense. Darius Baisley of the Thunder, role player again, a dude who to me, it's kind of baffling that he's getting major minutes on a playoff contender. I don't think he's that talented. Um, I think he has a lot of room to grow. Like right now, I don't think what he's bringing to the table is all that much. But I think like with any NBA player, they could develop and come out of nowhere and have a great season. So who am I to judge? But right now, I don't get why he's getting minutes. Mikal Bridges, average starter to me, gives you like 10 points a game on okay efficiency. And to me, that's like the definition of like average starter. Same thing with like a Josh Okogie, average starter. Even I'd teeter on role player. I think he just barely gets into the average starter category because I think like he's going to develop um, he's got a lot of bounce ability to him. Very athletic, can jump super high for being like 6'5". I obviously watch a lot of him because I am from Minnesota and watch the Timberwolves a lot. But I think he is a promising young guy, and I look forward to seeing how he develops going forward. Tim Hardaway Jr., I'm going to say above average starter, kind of in that similar to Eric Gordon, like he gives you like 16 points per game, reliable scoring option down the stretch of a game. I would not, I don't know, I guess you could trust him with the last shot of a game, but basically really solid to be like your third scoring option on a team, I would say. No defense though, but if he were to develop like as a really good defender, he could maybe move up to this all-star category even. I know that sounds probably high on him, but that's just how I feel, I guess. DeAndre Hunter, average starter to me. Good defensively this year, needs to improve a lot on offense. He sort of looks like baby Trevor Ariza right now. I think he could develop to be better than Trevor Ariza, obviously, but he feels a lot like Trevor Ariza right now. Miles Bridges, going in the same category as Michael Bridges, or Mikal Bridges, excuse me. Again, another guy who just gonna give. I feel like on any given team is gonna give you like 10 to 12 points per night on average efficiency, and to me that's like the definition of average starter. Otto Porter Jr. teeters between these two for me. I'm gonna say above average starter because he was really good on those Wizards teams. I still think he's got it in him to be that caliber of a player. I like Otto Porter Jr. a lot. I remember a few years ago, I think he shot like 44% from three, and I think that player's still in him somewhere. So I'm gonna say he's still an above average starter. Same with Duncan Robinson. Really good efficiency as far as shooting the ball. He's putting up, I think, like 14 to 15 points per night this year. But he's shooting, I think, like 44% from three. So to me, that warrants him getting into the above average starter category. I like the guy a lot. Let's do Cedi Osman, role player. He's been starting on the Cavs lately, but the Cavs have been awful the past couple years. So I think on a team that wins more than 32 games, I think he does not start. Same sort of deal with, I guess, right now, James Ennis is the starter for the Magic. On any team, he's starting right now because I think Jonathan Isaac is injured. But if Jonathan Isaac wasn't injured, he would definitely be coming off the bench. Trevor Ariza, average starter. I think he's in this kind of range like these guys I call DeAndre Hunter baby Trevor Ariza, so I basically have to put Trevor Ariza in the same category. He's going to give you 10 to 12 points per night and pretty decent defense, and I think that really warrants being an average starter in today's game. Jason Tatum, all-star, teetering on All-NBA depending on how he develops over the next year or two. Really like his game a lot. He can basically do everything on offense. He's not a great like distributor of the ball yet, but as far as like scoring, he can basically do everything. Harrison Barnes, I teeter between these two, but I feel like he's kind of on that like Otto Porter range, so I'm gonna barely put him into above average starter, but he could be in this average starter category too. He's right on the border. Like on the Mavericks and stuff, he puts up like 18 points per game the past few years, but when he's on the Warriors, he was more in that like 12 point per game range. I think I'm putting him in the above average starter category because ultimately, like, I think he is just distinctly a little bit better than any of these guys right now. Tony Snell, distinctly role player. A guy where I always think, his there's going to be like a direct negative correlation between the number of minutes he gets and the quality of your team. If you are a title level team, this dude's getting 6 minutes a night. If you are an 18 win team, this is the kind of guy that's probably getting like 30 minutes per night. That's really my best way of describing him, honestly. Gives you some defense, gives you minimal offense, not very good shooter, but he's really on the court for his defense. Wiggins, above average starter, gives you some really good scoring, but pretty inefficient. Basically like a higher volume scoring Harrison Barnes. That's my best way of describing him. Joe Ingles, above average starter, gives you like 12 points a night, but unlike these guys, he gives it to you on like great efficiency, like a really good shooter. So I'm gonna put him as an above average starter. Let's see here. OG Anunoby, average starter, and it probably sounds repetitive, but it's that same old tune of like a guy who can give you somewhere between 10 to 12 to maybe 14 points per night. He's going to play decent defense, and that's really what he brings to the table. So that's the category he goes in. Tobias Harris, above average starter. Going to give you, like last year, he wasn't an all star, but he gave like 20 points per night. And I think like he is another one of these guys that's like he is like the definition of like above average starter. Like he will never be an all-star, but he will consistently be like the third best option on a contending team. TJ Warren, very similar to like Wiggins and Harrison Barnes, volume scorer, does it somewhat inefficiently, not like terrible, but less than you'd say like on his best days he's like average as far as efficiency goes. We're getting a lot of guys in this average, above average starter, but it's just the nature of the position. Same thing with Will Barton and Karis LeVert. They're going to give you like that 16 points per night on average efficiency, and so I think 16 points per night warrants you being a little bit higher than this average starter category, because 16 points per night is usually like the second or third leading scorer on a team. Like in Will Barton's case, it's third. In Karis LeVert's case, I think, if you don't include Kyrie, because he's only played like 15 games, he's like the second leading scorer on the Nets this year who would have been a playoff team. DeMar DeRozan, I'm still going to put him in All-Star. I think he's teetering on only being above average, but I'll say right now he can still hang on to All-Star. He's going to put up like 22 to 23 points per night on basically not good efficiency. Relatively speaking, he's going to shoot like 28% from three and like 43% or 45% from the field. And to me, that's like, yeah, you can make an all-star game, but you're like a bottom of the tier all-star. Brandon Ingram kind of playing similar to like a prime DeMar DeRozan, like shooting pretty decent. He's actually been really good this year in that he's developed his playmaking a lot. He can play a lot of like point forward, I feel like. He's kind of combining a lot of different people's games, but when you think of like how Scottie Pippen was kind of like the playmaker for the Bulls, in the same way Brandon Ingram can sort of be the playmaker if they needed him to be for the Pelicans. But yeah, shown some great strides this year and has been really good. And then the last two guys are in the All NBA tier are LeBron and Kawhi. They're like the MVP caliber guys, can be like the number one on a title team. And I mean, we all kind of know the case with them. It's not like they were going to be, there's no chance that they were going to be any lower. But there you have it, guys. Those are my rankings for the small forwards who are starting in the NBA right now. Definitely a lot of above average guys, but not a ton of like all NBA guys. But that's, again, just the nature of the position. And the law of averages would dictate it makes sense that you have the most guys in the middle here, too. So leave your thoughts on the rankings below, and I'll see you next time. Bye.